Hi, boys and girls. It's time for Bible time with Mrs.Tschida. So today we are going to talk about when Jesus rose from the dead. Easter is the day we celebrate that. And there might be some of you that get to go look for Easter baskets, or maybe you get to hunt for Easter eggs that mom and dad hide around the house or outside if it's warm enough. But why we celebrate Easter, those are super fun things, and the Easter bunny is fun. But the reason we celebrate Easter is because Jesus, who was crucified, that means he died, and he was buried in the ground. And on Easter, we celebrate it because he didn't stay in the ground. He rose from the grave. So today, we are going to hear all about that wonderful morning when Jesus rose from the dead. And I am using today, I've got a little sticker scene. And do you see that cave in the background? This is what the tomb looked like where they buried Jesus. He didn't have a grave. If you ever go to a cemetery, if you've ever seen that, wasn't buried like that. He was buried in a cave like this. Oh my goodness. So we're going to find out what happened on that Sunday morning, because no one knew. Even though Jesus had been talking about how that's what he came to earth to do. He came so that he could take our place, and he would die. He'd become our sin, and we would have resurrected life. We would be able to live forever with him because of his sacrifice. But even though he talked about that, people still didn't understand. And when he was crucified, everyone was sad. Even his disciples, his best friends, were sad because they didn't really understand. So, here we go. I am going to read what happens, and we're going to use our sticker. I've got some stickers that we're going to put on our sticker scene. All right, are you ready? It was the third day after Jesus had died on the cross. The sun wasn't even up yet. And one woman, Mary Magdalene, she couldn't sleep. She had believed in Jesus, and she had hoped that he was the king. She really believed him. So she got up very early while it was still dark, and she went to the tomb where Jesus was buried. Now, something about the tomb, and you may see something that's missing on my page. When Jesus was buried, the king of the day thought that he had heard the rumors that Jesus was going to be raised from the dead, and he thought that the disciples might come and steal his body and make it look like Jesus rose from the dead. So he took a whole group of guards, and do you know what he did? He had them stand in front of the tomb, and they were going to guard Jesus's body. And remember, they had a stone that was put in front of the tomb, and it was sealed. So no one could go in because it was too heavy to roll, and Jesus couldn't get out. But could he? Yes. All right, so here we go. So, and if you see, I have a tree, and I've got some flowers on my little sticker scene, and there's one of the guards who's standing. We have to pretend that the stone is here. All right, so as Mary is making her way, she's going to the tomb. It's very early in the morning, and she's really sad. And she's just walking to the tomb, and I'm going to put her kind of over here. Oh boy, that's not going to be good. That's all right. Okay, so she's walking to the tomb. There she is. And she wants to see Jesus. And guess what happened? There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven. And going to the tomb, what do you think that angel did? The angel rolled back the stone and sat on top of it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they became like dead men. Oh my goodness. Can you imagine? So here's our stone, and I'm going to roll it over here. I've rolled our stone away, and what did it say the angel did? That strong, ferocious, violent angel came and sat on the stone. Now remember, when I have these sticker sheets, the angels don't look very ferocious, but we know that they are full of power. And so I'm going to put this angel right here on top of the stone. There's our angel sitting on top of the stone, and then there's Mary, and she's just walking. She was walking to the tomb. Do you think she heard the earthquake? Do you think she felt it? Oh my goodness. And the angel said to Mary, "Don't be afraid, for I know you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where they had laid his body." Oh my goodness. His body wasn't there. And Mary, she stood outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb. She turned around, and guess who she saw? Who do you think she saw? She saw Jesus. And he's standing there, but she didn't even recognize him. I don't know why. I'm going to put Jesus right here. Do you see there's Jesus? She turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't realize that it was him. And Jesus said to her, "Mary." And she turned toward him and cried out. And guess what? She was so excited. Jesus told her to go back and tell the disciples, "I am alive. I've risen just like I said I would." Well, you know who came to look for Jesus. He wanted to see, these two men disciples wanted to see if Mary's story was right. So Peter and John came running to the tomb. There's one of our guys. We'll put him here. He's going to come running. Oh, he's a little crooked. He's going to come running to the tomb. And here is, we got Peter and we got John. Got all kinds of stuff going on our sticker sheet, don't we? So Peter and John started for the tomb. Both were running, and John outran Peter, and he reached the tomb first. He bent over and looking in at the strips of linen lying there, but he didn't go in. Then Peter came along behind him, and he went straight into the tomb. And he saw the strips of linen that had been wrapped around Jesus' head. They saw the cloth that was still lying in its place. And they saw and they believed. Oh my gosh, here's what we know. Jesus has risen just as he said. And do you know what? Jesus went and he met them in Galilee, in the place they were staying. And he visited with them. He cooked breakfast for them on the beach after he had risen. He spent time with his disciples and he told them all about God's kingdom. He wanted them to be sure to tell people that Jesus is alive. He is not in the ground anymore. He came from heaven to earth as a baby. He's not a baby. He grew up. He was a young boy. He's not a young boy anymore. He even was a carpenter, learning his father's trade. He's not a carpenter. Is he dead? He's not dead. Is he in the ground? He's not in the ground. He is alive. And do you know what? He's in heaven right now. But he's not even going to stay in heaven. One day he's going to come back and he's going to rule on the earth with you and I. And we'll get to be with him and see him and love him. The disciples got to walk with Jesus. They got to know him on the earth, and one day we'll get to know him too, face to face, not just believing in our heart. So this Easter, I want you to tell somebody that Jesus is alive. He is not in the grave anymore. And that is it for Bible time today with Mrs. Tschida. I want this Easter to be full of celebration, to know that Jesus was crucified, he was dead, he was buried, but he didn't stay in the tomb. He is alive, and because he is alive, you and I can have confidence that we will be able to live forever with him. All right, happy Easter, boys and girls. I'll see you next week.